youngsters. Great chance here. That does it. Steve McGavin. And for the first time, Colchester United have won a major final.
Still Garcia, finally the company arrives and it's in! It's a freak-out goal from Ricardo Carvalho. Richard Garcia wants the credit and the shock is on at the bridge.
And it's promotion for Colchester United. They've made it into the Championship for the first time in 69 years.
Porter, being held, there is Porter, and that's Maka!
Welcome to Beyond The Barside, the podcast that covers all things Colchester United. I am Aaron J, and I am joined this week, as ever, by Si and Dave, but we're also joined by BBC Essex's Neil Kelly. Neil, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's great to have you.
It's a pleasure, and good evening or good morning, depending when and where you're watching this.
Yeah, I always find it difficult to sort of say the time of day. In terms of when we record it, it's fine, but people obviously listen at various points, such as whatever their routine is. But we're here to talk post Bromley, which was a particularly frustrating game for Colchester United. I know Dave put in the WhatsApp group that he felt somewhat more angry at the performance because we played well. We looked like in large spells the better team, but Bromley, they were well organised. They capitalised on a mistake from Samson Tavide. But Neil, you've covered Colchester United for a while now. Have you seen spells like this before, where the performance levels are there and Colchester are playing and creating chances, but the cutting edge is just not there, is it?
Seems to have happened so often under a range of managers, where I'd be sitting there with David Gregory, summariser, co-commentator, and we'd be talking about chance after chance, and we both agree that the key thing is to score when you're on top, especially early on, especially in the opening half hour, and then you get to the half hour mark and you ain't scored, and you'd think, oh, I do hope at the end of this game that we don't regret failing to turn that ascendancy into goals. So I've seen it before. I thought Saturday was particularly poignant in that regard. I don't think I was. Dave, did you say that you were angry about Saturday?
Well, it's anger. I don't really know how to feel. It's not a question of effort at all or performance. It's about execution. And it's almost, I think we're at the stage now. There are 10, 15 games of the season, you think, right, it's nearly there, we can improve. But now we're at a point, it's actively affecting the season and how the season's going to pan out and how it looks like it's now going to pan out. So it's almost, just anger at just that, we just need to do the job. Bit of a catchphrase of mine from just like, do your job, and it's just not happening. And now it's having actual consequences on the season now.
It's almost like if you lose 4-0, you kind of, okay, we have got outplayed, we're poor. I can see why we lost, but when you're on top so much, then you don't take chances. And like Lisbon was trying to roll the ball into the back of the net and then clear off the line. It's just like, I think that's where the frustration comes from. It's like, we are so much better than this if we could just find that killer instinct.
I was frustrated with Saturday, and I've used that word before. I wasn't angry because I thought we played some exhilarating football. One of the best stuff that we had played probably for some time away from home. And it didn't surprise me. Everyone I travelled with, everyone I met beforehand, and I did Seaside beforehand, I thought I saw Steve Houghton, who's now head of 5 Live Audio. There were so many people there I was having a chat with, and there was a real consensus that we fancied our chances. So to start the way we did, to play as well as the way we did, to open them up as often as we did, I was really pleased with all those aspects. But the back of my mind, it was there.
Yeah.
Or not again. Please don't be the case where we regret missing all of those chances. And that's exactly what happened. And then it's the point that you've made, Dave. This isn't a game 10. This isn't a match 10 games into the season. This was a match with 8, 9 games to go. And therefore, it is so much about the result. And the result was terribly disappointing.
And it was a very different game. The same theme, but a different type of game to MK Dons. Whereas I felt we had full control of the game against MK Dons in the second half, particularly, without creating many clear-cut chances. Whereas Bromley, from 20 seconds in, don't know where Kane Vincent-Young came from, gets
Brilliant.
in, great ball from Williams, great run. I haven't watched it back. I don't know if he needed to take a touch. It felt like he could have taken it first time. But either way, that was a real show of intent. And yeah, the first 20 minutes, I don't know how we weren't ahead. Well, I do know how. It's a lack of execution.
But I think it's telling you say that about the first 20, 30 minutes. The fact that their goalkeeper had to do his little feign injury bit for them to be able to go and reset and actually try and work out what they've got to do to nullify our attack, because obviously we were causing them problems they weren't expecting.
And those you've mentioned him already, and you've mentioned that first 20 minutes, half an hour, where Colchester really did look like they could open up Bromley and get themselves ahead. Jaden Williams had a great game in that number 9 role. He came deep, play seemed to go through him, which was really nice to see. Do you think he's sort of going to become one of the first names on the team sheet off the back of that performance?
Hopefully. I think we've looked so much stronger and the chances were created, and he's bringing other players into it. His link-up play with Lisby is going really well. I think what does help with him is he's not as quick as Curry's. We're going to be very struggle to find anyone that is, but he has got a bit of pace about him, so he's able to support Curry's a lot more. And he's very intelligent. He's physical, likes the ball being played into his feet, and to bring other players in. So I would definitely like to see more of him leading the line, because I just think he brings something in that maybe Sampson and Goodwin haven't got, with both the link-up play and his willingness to take a shot on. Because a couple of times he actually did take the half chance and it did come off. But as we've said on this pod numerous times, we're not taking chances. The fact we actually had someone in the position where he wanted to take the chance is an improvement in the right direction. We just need to take those chances and half chance into actually on target. Then once we've done the on target bit, maybe we'll go to the goal bit. But baby steps.
And him coming deep to try and get the ball and have that ball come through him. As you say, he plays it off to Kyrie's really well. It seemed like the used tactic really was to try and get in behind. And obviously that back four of Bromley are physically very dominating. They're very tall. They're very physical. But it felt like with the players we had in that front line that if we could get one or two opportunities over the top of them or through them, we were home free to create some chances. And Si, you alluded to that opportunity from Kyrie where the touch wasn't quite strong enough to make it all the way over the line, but we were certainly on the front foot, willing to take the game to Bromley, which was lovely to see. But Bromley score a goal, Neil, which felt like it was against the run of play, and it felt like Colchester, it took the wind out of Colchester's sails a little bit. Tavide loses the ball. He doesn't fully track back to win the ball back. From your commentary position, did that feel like the key moment of the game?
No, I think the key moment of the game is what we were referring to earlier. It was the failure to take the chances. Now, I thought Jaden Williams was a revelation. The ball that put Kane Vincent-Young through was wonderful. There's a run that he makes in the second half where he uses strength to hold off a couple of challenges, and then the pass out to the left-hand side is just exquisite. But here we go. What does Dave, what do you want? want players who lead the line well? Do you want players who create half chances for other players and so on? Or Dave, do you want goals? Because I'm afraid now Jaden Williams, I can tell you, has the reputation of being the best finisher at the club on the training ground. He had, however, this is where I'm heading towards. This is the difficult part. He had one fantastic chance in the first half.
6 yards out.
Yeah, 6 yards out, central position. Dave, he doesn't take the chance. And I know I'm not going to go Jaden Williams, but I'm saying, isn't that the problem we're having now that we've lost Mbik, who looked like a natural goal scorer, is that we are creating these chances and we spread it around. Loads of them missed their chances.
Well, that's exactly it. You're exactly right, Neil, because one thing, it wasn't, even the more experienced players, I think it's now starting to play in their mind. They're tightening up a little bit. There was a couple I can think of. We seem to get between down sort of more our left side, between their right back and right centre back. We seem to get between them quite a lot. I think Harry Anderson got in, didn't shoot, tried to square it, cleared away. And there was one, Jack Payne got in that. Jack Payne, all the ability he's got, rather than just shooting, he feigned a shot before shooting, which gave the defender time to get back and get the block in. And then on a lot of occasions, it's something, I don't know if you agree, Neil, I think this has been the case for the last couple of seasons where we have been weak, is getting into those really good positions towards the byline, behind the fullbacks, approaching the box, and just hitting into the melee without any real care or attention. Then it gets cleared out. And the one time we did get that, it was after he took a corner. Can't remember who, sliced a shot wildly, but it luckily ended up back at R3's feet. Who had a bit of time,
I believe. I think.
but then it came back in, and Bishop's there. And again, I'm not going to bore everyone with saying what a good player I think Bishop is, but he doesn't deliver again.
Score goals.
And it's just it's that frustration, and because I think we've shown it in games where the result has gone our way, Walsall, Notts County, Grimsby, and we've shown it in games that haven't gone our way, MK, Bromley on Saturday. And I've said a lot. We've all said a lot, Neil, throughout the season. That squad, that first 11, I think is at least a playoff squad, but we don't have that spark that Mbik did provide a little bit. That
it's we play a formation which I'm a big fan of. When I had more time in my hands in my younger days, I used to play. It's embarrassing even admitting this. Maybe we can edit this out. I used to play Championship Manager.
That's Neil. That is not embarrassing.
No, everyone still plays.
We still do.
Yeah. Managing.
I'll tell you what. Sorry to go on a bit of a tangent here, Neil. You're the voice. You're the voice of Cole U for the last however many years. When I'm playing FIFA or Football Manager, because I'm so cool, I think everyone does. A lot of people do this involuntarily. They have commentary going on in their head. When I'm playing as Cole U, your voice is in my head now.
that's
so you're part of my consciousness throughout the week.
Scary place to be.
Isn't it?
You're desperately hoping someone's going to back you up here, Dave, and go, yeah, no, we all do that, mate.
Oh, no, loads of people. There'll be loads of people listening to this exactly the same thing. Sorry, Neil.
I know, because I referenced champion. No, that was reassuring. I referenced because I have the same formation non-stop. And it is 4-2-3-1. I love the formation, but it does need someone who can lead the line well, bring other players into the game, hold on to the ball whilst he receives the support. And then what we want, this is what we want. We want that player who's going to get the most chances because he's going to be in the penalty area in scoring positions the most. We want him to be a good finisher. And how often in recent years have we had someone who could do all of those things and be a good finisher? And my guess is that the one who's nearest to it was Micah Mbik. I know he was only 18 years old, but he did all those other things that we wanted. He was a revelation. And he was a good finisher. You know, people say, can we play two up front? There are big advantages of two up front, though. Interestingly, that's not the formation I would choose to deploy. And most managers of Colchester United have gone for 4-2-3-1. But you do need a very special player up front, and you need to be able to hold on to him for quite some time. I'm trying to work out, before Mike Graham Bick, who would be that person?
I'm trying to think. Are we going back to Chris Owellamo?
Or Chris Owellamo.
Even though he was in a 2, obviously. But
There's 2. This guy's more than 4-foot.
yeah.
I think Taylor obviously did it.
Taylor was a finisher.
Yeah,
He would not. I remember just
he wouldn't
getting out of my seat
necessarily
saying,
do.
hold on to the ball.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
To
necessarily
be fair,
do
he was
all
doing
of those.
he was doing all of the attacking on his own.
Yeah.
But you go
What
back
about
to the
Chris
attacking
Porter?
this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
shout.
It's frustrating.
Chris
We've won
Porter.
goal of the month twice for
Yeah.
shots outside the box. So but we don't do it. We just pass it around. Then, like you say, then when we do get a chance, we miss it anyway. So it's just have a shot. Maybe we should
Chris
stop
Porter.
playing him in shots.
Yeah, Chris Porter kept out of the team Macaulay Bonne.
He did. Yeah.
Macaulay Bonne then went on and scored hundreds of goals. But we couldn't get Macaulay Bonne into the side because he didn't do all those other things that we want from that lone striker up front. So there's your dilemma. We could do with Mike Graham Bick coming back next season. That's not going to happen.
No.
I don't think Samson is that kind of number one up front. I think he needs someone playing up front alongside him. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, especially perhaps for a club like Colchester United, who, as soon as we discover an asset like that, they wouldn't tend to stay here very long, would they? That's the truth.
And we've said in the last couple of episodes, don't know if you agree, Neil, that in Samson and I think personally Goodwin, I think they're both number 10s who would work well alongside a partner. I don't think either of them are goal scorers, but they can facilitate other people scoring. That's why I think Samson now, at the moment, how we're playing, I prefer him from the right because he gives you that strength and pace as a real outlet. And he's often up against, there's not many fullbacks who can match him physically. So I think that's where he's been best this season when he has come off there. But obviously, that does still leave with Adam Bick there. And I thought I was actually quite surprised at how physical Jaden Williams was. It's not something I've really seen from him before, but even against Shrumney and their other giant defenders, I think he gave as good as he got, and he wasn't. It didn't affect his game at all how physical they were with him.
No, he stood up to it.
Very well.
If he had scored on Saturday, Jaden Williams, that chance in the first half, no matter what had happened the rest of the game, we would have said that was a tremendous first start since August. It's just the point Dave made earlier, that this was not 8 or 9 games into the season. This was 8 or 9 games before the end of the season, and that just makes those misses, whoever misses them, and as we said earlier, they really did spread them around. It just hurts even more because we know the significance of it.
Yeah, the context is wildly different, isn't it? And the U's did a lot right, and obviously the finishing was the bit that we couldn't quite get a handle on. We did a lot right, Si, but Bromley's style is not pretty. It's not necessarily groundbreaking either, but it is effective, and they're big, they're physical, they try and hit teams on the break, they're set piece focused, they slow the game down. Do you feel ultimately Colchester struggled to deal with that side of the game, or do you feel like Bromley are so adept to doing it, it's just second nature?
I don't think we struggled with it because of how much control of the game we had. So we've all alluded to the fact that we were the better side. We had a lot more of the ball. We created obviously we didn't take the chances, but we created the opportunity to be there to not take the chance, if that makes sense. So actually, we were building up, we were dominating the game. Bromley probably, although they won't admit it, will think themselves quite lucky for the way the ball was turned over for their goal. They got the opportunity to catch us, I think, on the back foot, the transition, because if Sampson in that situation had looked up, he was able to play the ball through the lines to start a very good counter-attack. The fact he didn't and lost the ball caught us on the hop between half the team obviously looking that we're going to now counter, half the team getting caught on the back foot for not being able to transition, so obviously left gaps that may well have not been there had it actually been played through. And yeah, Bromley are very good at what they do, but I don't think they gave us as many problems or many issues as the home fixture when we were at home when we got out Bromleyed. If anything, they got out Colchestered, but we just went our own unique version of Colchester and hit our Achilles heel.
Yeah, and there's a few schools of thought sort of behind that as well. Obviously, the notable exclusion of Michael Cheek was something that Hughes fans were quite excited by going into the game, although I thought Nicky Kambamba had a pretty good game himself. The other one, Dave, was the officiating. It was heavily criticised again. We had the assistant referee in front of us who didn't want to do much by way of raising their flag for any sort of
No,
foul.
didn't want to get involved. It was like when you run the line on a Sunday.
Yeah.
The ref says just do offsides and throws. I'll give the fouls.
But do you feel like sort of the referees and again the assistant referees' reluctance to pull up maybe silly fouls or tactical fouls just sort of played into that Bromley game plan a little bit more than it did for the U's?
No, not to be honest, no, because we were fluid. How many chances could we discuss now?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But I didn't really get a flavour of like the criticism of the refs. It wasn't something that was really sticking out to me. There was some. It was for the ones that did. There was some where there was one in particular. Sampson. He was in the far corner to us. You could see the guy had his shirt.
Yeah,
those ones need to be given.
yeah.
And then he gave the foul against Sampson. I think he got booked as well for fouling the guy. But those are the ones that should get called. But to be honest, the refereeing wasn't something that was really in my mind in that game because I thought it was the chances. I felt like we were going to still create chances, and I also felt like we were going to miss those chances, and I was going to be in a bad mood, and that's what happened. It's that obvious, Neil. Sorry. Yeah, we've just met, and this is Neil's only impression of me. I'm just in a bad mood constantly, which I have been for the last 3 weeks, actually, to be fair. But no, I thought we again, we've shown we're a really good team up to a point, and unfortunately, that point's the most important point on the pitch.
It certainly is. It's the focal point, isn't it, of actually getting the goals and getting the points and getting ourselves up the table. We tried to change things at 0-0. I thought it was quite surprising, Neil, that Jaden Williams came off for Will Goodwin, given how well he was playing, and that felt like an unusual one. I felt like the changes on the wings gave Colchester maybe fresher pairs of legs to come on and try and take the game to Bromley. They were all particularly attacking changes. And then there was the substitution of Finlay Barbrook coming on for Tom Flanagan at centre-back, which raised a few eyebrows, but
that seems to be just an injury thing. Flanagan had an ice pack on his shin at the end of the game.
I think the only eyebrows it sort of raised was in regards to having Frankie Terry, a left-sided centre-half, on the bench, but the central midfielder in Finlay Barbrook came on. But he came on and played well. But do you feel like the substitutions, Neil, had any impact on the end result?
No, I don't think so. I think that that result, the big impact on that result, we've discussed it, was the failure to take chances in the first half. I know there's been a fair amount of discussion about Samson Davida getting caught in possession. That led to their goal, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge after that happened. And actually the pass, inverted commas, that leads to Kabamba's goal, it's not a pass at all. It's just a mishit shot across the penalty area that puts Kabamba onside, because I think there's a youth player actually in the back of the net at that point. So we can talk about the significance of substitutions because they happen at a certain time. But the bottom line is that Colchester should have been leading when they were well on top, and that would have changed the nature of the game. I think, Si, you made a really good point about Bromley at home earlier in the season. When we got beat by Bromley earlier in the season, I thought, wow, that's classic Bromley. Didn't like it. Thought they would get worked out in the second half of the season, like Walsall kind of did last year. I didn't like what happened. Can I just say, I thought Bromley were a significantly better side second time round than what I'd seen back in
I agree.
December.
Mhm.
And I thought that they really got stuck in and they were really intense and they created a whole load of chances of their own. So the fact that they get a goal, I don't think it's about our substitutions. I don't really think it's about Samson getting caught in possession. I think it's that we haven't taken our chances. And it was a bit disappointing because they produced some fantastic efforts on goal. And yet they win by scoring from a yard out. But that's what Bromley, and who else am I thinking of? Cambridge United, they're the ones really good at getting across the line
Mhm.
Yeah.
in games.
Yeah, it's
When was the
uh,
last time we had a coached United side that could play ugly and win? Because we played some beautiful football on Saturday and
yeah,
lost.
Yeah.
And
The
it-
amount of teams that we go to and say, "Oh, you guys are going up."
Yeah, no,
You
I
came
can
in.
say it.
Yeah, we ain't.
Cambridge is a great
Yeah.
example of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
Dave. The
no.
amount of Cambridge fans that said that we would be in and around the playoffs
Yeah.
come the end
Yeah.
of the season, and then you play the teams that we played afterwards and put in a completely different performance. It's frustrating for youth fans, but as Danny mentioned in his post-match interview, he's taken a lot of inspiration from Bromley and how
Yeah.
they've approached the league and approached the season. And I think he's sort of looking ahead without looking past this season at how he can do things differently next year. But I put it out for a one-word review for that Bromley performance, and Rob went with striker, which is quite apt for what we've spoken about. Phil went with flaccid. Ian went with again. Duncan went with nutshell. Si, what is your one-word review for that Bromley performance?
Impotent. Just, we just can't take chances and can't finish.
I think that's pretty appropriate and awfully similar to what Phil sent.
Pairs well with one or the other.
It certainly pairs well with striker. No, Dave, what's your one-word review, mate?
My one word is just shoot, but with like 15 O's.
Yeah, exclamation mark at the end. I'm assuming.
Exclamation mark. And yeah, just just that. I don't have anything else to say. Just shoot, please.
Fair enough. Neil, how would you summarise Saturday's performance in one word?
Frustrating.
Mhm.
Terribly missed opportunity. It just seemed, I know you want one word, but just final reflection, it just seemed a beautiful March day.
Mhm.
It was sunny, blue skies above, fantastic away following. And at Bromley, I know it's an old non-league ground, but you feel really near the action. The
Yeah.
players look big and strong and quick, and I thought we played some fantastic stuff. And on the way home, I thought, oh,
Here we go again.
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating, and as you say, Colchester played some really good football,
Yeah.
and some of our attacking moves were really well worked. Particularly as you say, the Kane Vincent Young opportunity that Jaden Williams, that ball that he puts through it. We looked like a side that were really going for the game, and unfortunately it didn't come off. But we have the opportunity to put things right on Saturday as we're at home to Walsall. And I spoke to Harley from the Yellow Ribbon podcast to get his opposition view. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside, and it is of course time for our opposition view, and I am joined by one of the hosts of the Yellow Ribbon podcast and Walsall fan, Harley. How are you doing, Harley?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on again. You obviously spoke to us for the reverse fixture earlier on in the season where both teams were probably in a bit more of a positive position than where they are now, although Walsall still very much in the playoff hunt, 11th place, 2 points off the playoffs. Are fans confident that you could sneak in by the end of the season?
I've just done, so we've just launched ourselves a kind of blog page, and I've just written a piece literally this morning, kind of talking about that. I think the sense amongst the fans is, and certainly how I feel about things, is that I think we'd all, at the end of the kind of the previous manager's reign, we all come to a kind of conclusion that the playoffs were not happening.
Mhm.
We were too far away. We weren't good enough. It wasn't going to happen. And we'll kind of get on to the kind of ins and outs of it. But there is, and you probably experienced it yourself, there's a bit of a feeling, and it's starting to creep in. We know we're an outside bet for the playoffs, but we've got Byfield, who's a former player, bit of a legend amongst Walsall fans, in charge. We picked up some good wins. There's a bit of a feeling that, we are definitely the dark horse now. We're an outside kind of contender, but you never know what can happen. And I feel like we're going to at least give it a really good go. And if things go wrong for other teams, we can be there to pick up the pieces.
100%. And I think the nature of the beast in League Two is if you're there or thereabouts by the end of the season, it's very much anyone's game. We've seen it multiple times in the EFL where sides have been written off and they've managed to do it sort of last 2 games of the season. You mentioned obviously Matt Sadler losing his job and Darren Byfield coming in. I'll start with Darren Byfield. He speaks on Saturday about how he wants to put his own stamp on things, how he very much doesn't want to just take over and keep things ticking along. He wants to implement his own methods. How's it been since Darren Byfield took over as the interim manager?
I can say with 100% certainty it has been fantastic. So your fans won't know much about Byfield in his position, but basically he was one of the coaches in Matt Sadler's team, but he's also a Walsall legend. He was a brilliant striker for us, 15, 20 years ago, something like that now. But he's basically a bit of a club legend, and he was brought in to kind of help Matt Sadler's team. And there was a bit of a thought process that him taking over from Sadler for initially a couple games, well, we looked for another manager, and now it's turned into the rest of the season. It was thought that the status quo was going to kind of remain, but he has come in and he has completely ripped up the rule book that was set by Sadler. Sadler's kind of style was very pragmatic. It was very system orientated. It was very square pegs in square holes. Byfield has disregarded everything, gone, this is how we want to play. We want to be on the front foot. We want to attack. He's letting players express themselves and show their true qualities in a way that never really happened under the previous manager. And we've changed to a 4 at the back, which is something that we thought wasn't possible with this squad. We all thought that this team was only capable of playing a 3-5-2 or a very similar variation on it because of the personnel we had. But he's gone in with a 4-3-3, and we've won twice and drew against Cambridge, which arguably was as good a kind of result as winning the other 2 games because they're flying. Mm-hmm. So I'm delighted with how Byfield's got on, and I don't think we expected him to do as well as he has done.
No, and it's always there's always an air of skepticism, isn't there, when one of the existing coaching staff steps into that interim role. But to come in and put his own spin on it must be really refreshing to see. You obviously mentioned Matt Sadler and how he was very system orientated, very pragmatic in his approach, had a core set of principles that he sort of stuck to through thick and thin. He lost his job, given the sort of decline that mirrored last season a little bit in terms of you were flying high and you've sort of dropped down the table a little bit after a run of not so good results. Were Walsall fans sort of calling for Matt Sadler's head a little bit?
Oh, 100%. I mean, from my perspective, it's a very complex thing for me as well, because I had met Matt Sadler on a number of occasions, and I'm not saying I knew him particularly well, but I'd spoken to him. I'd had a couple longer conversations. I'd spent a little bit of time on a few match days with him doing the pressers, when I was shadowing kind of one of our reporters. So I knew him. And I really liked him as a man. That's one thing I've always wanted to say, that he's a top bloke, but I wanted him gone after the end of last season. I wanted him gone even before the end of last season, because the way things panned out, I thought it was just a bit of a farce.
Mhm.
I never really bought into us being that good this season. I never really enjoyed the football. I said from about game week 3, I think we won away at Barnet, but it was turgid to
Mhm.
describe it best, and I didn't think we had much in us. And I think I was proved right in the end when the wins dried up. We were left with this awful style of football that just didn't work anymore. And from about kind of mid-December onwards, I think it was, kind of the serious shout started to come that this wasn't right, that things needed to change, things weren't changing, and the decision, in most fans' opinions, was made probably a month too late, maybe something around then. And I think that, it could have been a very different season if we'd have made that decision earlier. So to answer your question, absolutely, the fans wanted Sadler gone, not because we didn't like him, because he's a club legend, but because things had got so bad on the pitch that you just couldn't stand it anymore.
No, and it's there's only so much goodwill supporters can have towards a manager or a player or a coaching team before they decide that things need to change. And you've made that change. Darren Byfield is now the interim boss until the end of the season. Do you feel like that could extend beyond the end of the season, or do you feel like that very much hinges on how you get on this season and whether you make the playoffs or not?
Personally, I don't want him to become the full-time coach. I think we've been there and done that with Matt Sadler. He took over when he was one of the coaches, and he went on. He did okay, got the full-time job, and we've seen how that pans out. It's not for me. I think most fans will be in the same position where we go, Byfield is a club legend. We adore him, as I've expressed, a lot, but he's not the man to take us forward into the future. He's here for a good time, not a long time. He's here to kind of refresh things, give us a good run at playoffs if we can, just get the fans enjoying the football again. And then I think it's time to say goodbye and let him go off and start his next adventure. And we search for a proper full-time manager who can lead the club forward and take us in a different direction.
No, yeah, fair enough. And that's interesting that obviously you draw comparisons between Darren Byfield and Matt Sadler, and Colchester have been very guilty of following the same model when appointing management teams over the years. And it wasn't until we deviated from that model that we started to see a little bit of an upturn in fortune. So I completely understand where you come from. But looking at the game in hand, obviously Walsall will be coming to Colchester on Saturday. The away fixture was very positive for Colchester fans. We matched you man for man. You spoke about Sadler's system being quite predictable and having been found out. I think Colchester were one of the earlier sides to do that. What's different about the side now compared to when we played you over in Walsall?
I think it's weird because it's the same personnel, but it's a completely different team. And I think when we played Crewe, I think it was a couple of weeks back, I think that was Byfield's first game, we beat them 3-0, and I think that they went into that game expecting a similar sort of thing to what had come before, and it was like a real gut punch to them when they realised that this is completely different. And I think teams will be learning about how Byfield operates now and kind of how to counter it, but it's so different. I mean, like I say, systematically, it's a 4-3-3 opposed to a 5-3-2. It's things like we have attacking wingers now who want to drive at defenders. We want to get balls into the box. We want to create opportunities. We want to overload. We don't want to sit back, rely on our defensive strength to kind of keep the ball out the net and then see if we can nick one, like Sadler kind of ended up reverting to a lot this season. We've gone from a very defensive focused team to an attacking focused team, and I think we're letting the players shine now because we've always had decent attacking players, but we've kind of put them in a box, so to speak, and said this is your job, this is all you can do. I mean, someone like Albert Adoma, for example, who, I'm sure a lot of your listeners will be familiar with, an absolute legend, an absolute trickster. We were playing him as a striker for a lot of time when he played. He's a winger. He's a career winger. He spent a lot of time on the right wing and he spent a lot of time at kind of fullback. Putting him at striker was a puzzling decision, and now he's playing as a right winger. He's flying.
Mhm.
He's brilliant. So I think Colchester are going to expect a Walsall who are going to go and get at you, who want to take the game to you, who are going to want to go and score goals. And one of the best things about us right now is we have absolutely nothing to lose because it's not in our hands. Playoffs we are the outside contender for playoffs. Absolutely. If we slip up, it doesn't really make much of a difference. But if we win, it's massive.
It
So
certainly is,
it's we don't have a lot to lose in the same way that a Grimsby, a Chesterfield, or someone if they lose, they're in big trouble. They're looking over their shoulder at us. It's just this whole end of the season is just an experiment in seeing how far we can get with Byfield, with 7 games to go.
Yeah, definitely, and it's really refreshing to sort of hear someone go into a fixture knowing that their side are going to be on the front foot. I know when we spoke last time, you were very much sort of sharing the style of play that was let teams come onto you and then try and hit them on the break. So it must be really good for Walsall fans to see sort of a stark contrast to that for the remaining games of the season. Just to round things off, Harley, how do you see the game going? How do you see the final result?
It's an interesting one because we have been really good away from home this season. Even at our worst kind of times, we were still picking up points away from home. We've got better at home as well in these last couple of weeks. I feel like one of the main factors in this is the fact that we kind of spoke about it before we started recording, that you're kind of a little bit low down, that you're at about 9 points or something off playoffs.
Yeah.
You really don't have a lot to play for. And I think that's the teams you want to be playing at this stage of the season. You don't want to be coming up against playoff contenders and kind of the top teams, but you also don't want to be playing the relegation battling teams. You want to be playing that kind of 12th to 15th, 16th region who are a bit kind of on the beach, so to speak. They've not really got much to play for. They're just getting by the games. That's who you want to play. I think if we play the way we know we can and with the way we have been playing, I think we can come away with a win because I just think we'll be more up for it. But we're still learning how Byfield does things. We're still figuring it out. We make a lot of changes each match day. We rotate quite a lot, so it depends what team comes out. If you give us a game, who knows what's going to happen? But I would be confident that I think we're going to come away with something at least.
Certainly, I think you've got good reason to. Harley, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and opinions. And obviously, beyond Saturday, best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you, and you.
Cheers, mate. Big thank you to Harley for sending across his thoughts ahead of the game. But obviously, the opposition view isn't the only view that we are after. And we're looking ahead to Walsall. Dave, Walsall have an interim manager in Darren Byfield who has recently said post-match after beating Newport that he wants to put his own stamp on things towards the end of the season as they approach the run-in. Does that make them a dangerous opponent, do you think?
They're a dangerous opponent because they're a decent team. Obviously, I think a lot of what's gone on with them, they're sort of dealing with the scar tissue from last year, really. And that's ultimately what put paid to Matt Sadler.
Yes, it has, yeah.
But they're going to be a dangerous team because I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we thought this might be a sort of playoff 6-pointer. It's unfortunately not quite where we wanted it to be. But it is, and like Danny was alluding to after Bromley, it is probably almost time to start looking to next season. It's not out of the question, but we need to win. We've got 9 games left. Have to win 7 at least. We have to score in 7 of those games to win them. But yeah, it's going to be. I think they're they're a good team. Obviously, we changed our formation and had a very specific style of play for the game that we won at their place, which we're not going to be able to do this time. So if I can't pretend to know what Darren Byfield's management philosophy is in any detail, but if he's actually trying to move them away from that sort of Sadler ball, it might actually work for us because they're a team that want the other team to have the ball. We're at home. We've got Arthur Reed and Teddy Bishop and Jack Payne and Ellis. Thank God is back now. If he is trying to sort of move away from how they did play, it might actually work in our favour. Or I might just be really grasping after these last 3 games.
It's difficult to gauge, as you say, what Darren Byfield's philosophy is and how he's going to approach it. You can only sort of go off the fact that when he played up front, so maybe he'll want to attack, but there's not a lot really for us to sort of try and get from that. Neil, obviously, Dave's alluded to it already in a sense of we thought it could be a bit of a playoff 6-pointer. We're both sort of not. I mean, Walsall are still there or thereabouts, but Colchester are a bit too far adrift in many eyes. How big a game does this feel at this point, given the context of the season?
Well, in your introduction to all of this, you said this gives Colchester United the chance to put things right after last Saturday. That's my difficulty, is that if Dave's saying we've got to win 7 out of the last 9 games, which nearly all of us would agree, that is beyond the remit of the vast majority of clubs. And just with the nature of football as well, actually winning games when you play well. And this is a side that has not scored in 8 of their last 12 games. So it's almost like manager speak, where you say, oh, we've lost this one, so we can put it right next week. No, losing these last 2 games, drawing with Crawley, has done a huge amount of damage to our playoff prospects, as I consider them now. They're not over, though, but it would need an extraordinary run at a time in which we've struggled to do, some of the basic things to win football matches, like scoring goals. As for Walsall, I thought early in the season that was fantastic display. Do you remember in the was it 2 counter-attacking goals in the first half?
Well, Lisby's goal. Obviously, we've scored some screamers, but I think just for the feeling of it and the way it just sort of built from the corner, and we went up the pitch, and it was everything about it was exactly what it needed to be. That is probably still my favourite goal of the season.
Yeah, a 2-yard tap in, but quite different from the Kabambas 2-yard.
yeah.
So I'm trying to remember the first goal.
The first goal, free kick over to Anderson, got onto the end of it, put it across, and Sampson was there on the line to.
Yeah. It was 2 great goals. It was a tactical masterclass. Danny got it, and Nicky, he's a big part of things. They got it so right. And then in the second half, we saw what Walsall under Matt Sadler did, which was just every restart, every free kick, every corner, every throw-in, every time they had the ball on the halfway line or in the goalkeeper's hands, they just planted it into the Colchester United penalty area. We had 3 central defenders and the 2 backs, the full wing backs, making a 5, and we just defended magnificently. It was just such a wonderful day, such a great, one of those gritty performances that you have to produce to end up at the right end of the table by the end of the season. And go on. All I was going to say is last thing is that I think to get promoted as one of the top 3 teams as opposed to the playoffs, you've got to be able to win games in lots of different ways. And I thought the way Colchester won that game against Walsall and earlier in the season really gave me hope that they wouldn't just make the playoffs, but they'd make the top 3. I thought they were that good that day.
I think that's right. Sorry, Darren, before you start, it was those start of those running games, wasn't it? Where we thought actually this season could be different. We may actually have found the formula. Here we go, and then
No, I agree, Si, because it was might have been the next away game. It was very soon after we tactical masterclass, dug in, beat Walsall. Then we went to Notts County, played them off the park.
Yeah, we did.
And it was those, and and like you said, we thought, oh, we can do it all. And unfortunately, it's not quite panned out like that.
That's the frustration, isn't it, Dave? That there's been multiple games throughout the season. Neil, as you alluded to, of the Walsall game, and then subsequently that Notts County game as well, and multiple games throughout the season where we've looked like a really good team who could go. And I completely agree, Neil. I thought that there was a good argument for Colchester to go on a marauding run and get into those automatic places. And for one reason or another, and of course there's always a sort of cumulative effect in these things, it's not happened for Colchester. And I'm sure many Youths fans will be disappointed in that. And I'm sure many Youths fans have written the season off and are beginning to look ahead to next season. And Si, with that in mind, there's a few people on social media, on X in particular, who are keen to see Cian Connolly make his way into the matchday squad along with McKeith Evans. Do you feel like Danny will start giving some younger players an opportunity to have a place within the matchday squad? Maybe not start, but certainly be in and amongst it.
Hope so. I think it's the season. Yes, it's not mathematically over. Anything could happen in football, but as we've alluded to, we've got to win a fairer chunk of games. This is coming from a team that can't seem to get shot on target at times at the moment, so not holding much hope out of that. But now is the time to sort of look at maybe some of the younger players who are fringe for this season, but maybe are going to be in the plans for next year's a very, 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 very strong case to get Ronnie Harvey back in the first team picture.
There he is.
I think he should have been out of it, to be fair, especially when you've got other players that are coming in and taking his spot. So why not bring some youth in, even if they don't necessarily play, get them in around the first team, get an experience. And what's the worst that can happen? If they get given first team football, they either sink or swim, but they're doing it in a situation where actually there's not as much pressure because there's not as much to play for. Except for Ronnie Harvey should be the first name on the team sheet.
Background of this, Neil, is that Si is Ronnie Harvey's biggest fan.
His dad.
To an almost unnerving extent. Yeah, great uncle.
His dad does listen to this, to be fair to him, so I'm not quite sure how I'll take that.
Here's my thoughts. I think that, and this has been the case for quite some time, we're already, if not the youngest team in the division, one of the top 2 or 3 youngest teams in the division. This is a club that gives opportunities, not just at the end of the season, when maybe, I don't think we've quite reached that point, when the playoffs are beyond us. We've done that over the last 4 or 5 years. You look at some of these other teams in the division, they don't give a damn about blooding youngsters at any stage of the season. The average age difference between a team like Colchester United and Cambridge United, and this is a lot, it's something like 6 years.
Gillingham, 3 more than that.
So I'm really happy that, I think it's fantastic that this is a club which gives so many opportunities for young players. I just think that we're already a young side, and I don't think necessarily the important thing right now, a priority, would be to put more youngsters in the side. I'm excited in terms of strikers, because you mentioned a couple of strikers there. I'm excited to see Jaden Williams being given a run. Like I said, he was that one finish, that one goal off producing right up there, top performance, leading the line and getting a goal. So if you are going to bring in youngsters, please, not the expense of Jaden Williams, who at last has got his chance to see what he can prove between now and the end of the season. But guys, I've got a question for you, all of you. I wonder if you'd like to have a go at this. So I'm used to asking questions as well. So I think we've seen enough performances this season to think, number one, it's fantastic, I believe, to have Danny and Nicky Cowley in charge at Colchester United, and long may that continue. That's my view. If you can disagree with me, if you want that, I'd be surprised and disappointed if you did. And I think that the first 11 at times has looked definite playoff and outside for promotion, automatic. So why do you think it's likely we're going to end up 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th? Why do you think that is, the three of you?
I think some of the key injuries that we've experienced have been huge factors in that. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, with Ben Perry being injured, that placed a lot of strain on that midfield too of Teddy Bishop and Arthur Reed. I think there would have been a degree of rotation if Ben Perry was fit, and I think that would have ultimately got the best out of Teddy Bishop in particular. Although I think Arthur Reed has stepped into the role brilliantly, it has been evident that we've had a real lack of depth in that midfield role prior to bringing Finley Barbrack in at the end of January. Obviously, the injury to Micah Mbick was huge. You know, he goes off with the shoulder injury, back to Charlton, comes back and immediately gets injured again. Ellis obviously in and out of the side. I think some of our key players have not been available to Danny and Nicky, and that's really changed the approach and the end product for us. But I'm interested to hear what Si and Dave think as well.
I think it's been a combination of injuries and at times the pressure of decision making, where we've had the ability, we've had the moments, but maybe it's because they are young players, or maybe it's the fact that for a change, for so long the club's been looking over their shoulder relegation, and suddenly we were looking up the table to playoffs and beyond, that maybe that was playing on their mind, that not say the pressure got to them, because I personally think if pressure's earned and should be embraced, but more they're just not, some of their football intelligence, if like, just needs to be tweaked. We just haven't had that key, critical, crucial thinking moment in the right time at the right place.
Do you think that intelligence comes from what Neil said about us having a really young average age?
That's what I was going to say. Sorry, Si, to cut in what you were saying. But so as well as the injuries, because that you brought up, Aaron, and I think Ellis has been the key one. If we've had him for what, less than half a season, I can think probably between those two injuries he got. If we'd have had Ellis, he's so influential.
Yeah,
if we'd have had him for just 5-10 more games, that's a lot. But I think I think he's that important. We'd be 1 or 2 points outside the playoffs rather than 9.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say, as Si was alluding to, I think having such a young team, there's going to be peaks and troughs. And unfortunately, whether it's, getting to grips with playing League Two football week in, week out, where, you can, like Lisby, he came in, he was flying. Teams have started to, be physical with him, not leave as much space in behind. So we can't rely on that as much. What happened in January? Perfectly understandable for how that would have affected them psychologically, Samson as well. So yeah, having such a young squad, you're going to get those peaks and troughs, and I think the dips might have sort of coincided, a lot of them, at bad times, and not having that and not having that depth at times as well. I mean, Arthur Reed has been absolutely brilliant, but there was some games sort of in the sort of when Bishop was out and Hunt was alongside him, he was absolutely on fumes. How we played so well on fumes, I don't know, but it adds up. So yeah, it's been, but I think all over the pitch, and obviously him that affects the guys in front of him, I think, and sometimes the fullbacks don't want a bit more reticent to go forward. We don't have that balance. Nellis isn't there, so I think it's a combination of things. That the amount of injuries we've had, I don't think there's many teams apart from your Salfords, MKs who've got resources and squad sizes to deal with it, who could have dealt with it. And I think that hasn't helped. Ultimately, not taking those chances, a lack of clear thinking, like Si said, and decision making is what will cost us. But I think the fact we are so young, it has its positives. We were thrilling to watch. Go back to that Notts County game. what a match to watch. Even at times against Bromley, to be honest.
To be fair, though, sorry, Dave, sort of just jumping on you there, mate. If we can keep a lot of this squad together for next year, and a big if, obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with takeovers, contracts, etc. But we could almost look back on this season and think, do you know what? We've fallen short, but we've learnt so much, and the players have learnt so much about themselves and football and what it means to be a League Two player. That actually, this could be a very good foundation for next season, with the caveats of what happens in the summer.
That's my worry. Sorry, Aaron, to stamp all over what you're trying to do and keep this nice and tight.
No,
not going to happen. That's my concern, really. This season feels like, at the moment, it's looking unlikely we're going to make the playoffs. This season, with how tight League Two is and the squad we've got now, feels like it's going to be a missed opportunity because of, takeover or no takeover. We've got the core of our team. I'd be interested to know what you. It's good to have you on, Neil, for this. Actually, talk about the broader piece. We could go into next season. I don't think Samson or Kyrus will be there because they're going to be further in their career. I don't think they're going to start the season with us next year. But good on them. They've earned it. It's the career trajectory. When you look at the players who we might not have, Macy, Ellis, Reed, Payne. I'm not sure. I think Bishop might be at the end of his contract. Without Kyrus and Samson, and potentially those five, like I said, it feels like a missed opportunity. And we're talking about building towards next season, but I don't know what we're going to have, really.
So where are we going to be next year? I agree. Before this broadcast started, I was on about when I first started covering Colchester United, and we talked about the likes of Mickey Cook playing 600 games, and there's several other characters around at that time with equal claims for fame. It just doesn't happen like that today. And it's not just Colchester United. I will prepare for Walsall on Saturday, and I have got a list of players who were in their squad who were part of their starting 11 when we played them back last October, wherever it was. My guess is that, and Matt Sadler's only just gone a couple of weeks ago, so it's not about a change of manager. My guess is that the starting 11 for the Saddlers this Saturday coming up will have 6, 7, 8 changes from the side that played the U's back in the autumn. That if we look at Walsall, Matt Sadler's lost his job because of a repeat of what happened last season, where they did really well in the first half of the season and then trailed off really badly in the second half of the season. That was with a different set of players. In other words, I understand why we focus a lot on the players that we've got now. And indeed, Dave, you draw the conclusion we'll see this as a missed opportunity simply because we did have that, I thought, a wonderful combination of creative players and a half-decent defence as well, which we haven't mentioned this evening. We haven't mentioned Harvey Arujo, which was a wonderful acquisition. I've got a bit of faith, I think, in Danny and Nicky Cowley. In other words, yes, I think you're right. We're going to lose quite a few of those players who will be furthering their careers, trying pastures new. But I think Danny and Nicky Cowley know decent players and know how to put a team together. So I think this time next season, I'm hoping, Dave, you're not saying it's another missed opportunity, but I think if Danny and Nicky are in charge, it might be with different players, but I think we'll be competitive again next season. That's what I think. But this season, it is a shame because I do think we've got some wonderful players. We've talked about injuries, knowledge. There was something else that someone mentioned. My apologies for not referencing that now. I just wonder whether it is harder to produce a consistent winning side playing the kind of football that we win games by playing. That wonderful counter-attacking football. It can go wrong in a way that the likes of Bromley and Cambridge United, because I do think those two have done really well without having a huge amount of resources. And I wonder what Danny and Nicky it was Danny actually referred to at the end of the game on Saturday when he was chatting to me about success provides a lot of learning. I wonder if what Danny was thinking about that for next season. What do we learn from this season? What learning could we do to ensure that this time next season they can take that they can be there taking the kind of step that Bromley are making this season? Don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's about that style of play. So what you said about Bromley and Cambridge, what they do, they're almost machine tooled for League Two. And in many ways, our team is tooled for League One or a higher level because of just the way they play, really. And I think it's probably taken, and what they have also, those teams, the way they play is very repeatable. If you're playing well, if you're playing indifferently, if you're playing badly, you can play the same way. If we're not playing well, counter-attacking, trying to strike over the top, use pace, then we can go 3 games without scoring. So I think that's what, and maybe the profile of player we don't really have. And we talk about Ben Perry. Ben Perry is it's described as a destroyer, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily really physically imposing. Like Jamie McDonald wasn't.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Haven't talked about him for a few episodes.
We're all thinking about him.
Yeah, but
Always.
maybe those sort of profile of players, you're sort of looking at the physicality to be able to lean on that when your plan A, when your technical side isn't on it.
Yeah, I think, and Danny also spoke about, when we spoke to him, we spoke about certain leagues have different principles in order to be adhered to, in order to be successful. And I think maybe those principles have changed over the course of the season. Maybe he's acknowledged that the way that Cambridge and Bromley, and I think it's difficult to include MK Dons in that one, given the sheer amount of resources that they're able to throw at it. Is maybe those principles have changed, and maybe he's acknowledged that there's 1 or 2 things that he can add to his existing opinion and take that into next season and make the user an even harder side to beat. I don't know. I think we've certainly been beatable this season, and maybe that's something that Danny's looking to address in the off season.
Well, we have to play well, don't we, to win games, and we have a younger side. So you have to play well, and we have a younger side, and it's just not easy in a 46-game season at any league that they play in to play well non-stop. And the teams who get into the top 3 have a way of accumulating more points without always playing well. And I would like to know, when was the last time? Do we have to go all the way back to Phil Parkinson?
I think
we often do.
We do.
Yeah. If that was a team that knew how to win.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how we won, we just found a way to win, and that's what we're lacking at the moment.
Me and my brother were talking about Bromley on the way back on Saturday, and there are a lot of comparisons between this Bromley side and that promotion side, And we were difficult to beat. We were really positive off of set pieces. We were quite imposing in certain areas. It was there were comparisons, and I think you're right, Neil. I think traditionally, particularly in the last sort of 10 years, I'd say, we've been a side that have brought through good young footballers. But when you bring good young footballers through, maybe you lose that sort of that side of the game where you can sort of win ugly and be consistent.
And I've been thinking there's been a real comparison with what Lincoln are doing at the moment with that Phil Parkinson team. They've by excellent management and recruitment, they've put together a team who just work together.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And I think it's quite interesting just thinking about sort of how, we're like we keep saying, we're a good team, we play good football. And even if you go all the way up to the Premier League, the teams that play like that tend to be quite streaky. I'm thinking of teams like Bournemouth, who can be brilliant for 10 games and then not win for 10 games. Brighton are similar, who can go on runs where and they're sort of up and down the hill. But then you get teams, well, obviously Arsenal, they're not beautiful. They have a system. They know what they want to do. Everton are now chugging away, just being resilient and moving up. So it's something that it seems to affect every level. And,
we're too nice as well.
We're nice
Too
to
nice.
watch, but we're nice to watch and frustrating to watch in equal measure.
Yeah, but too,
I
I think players are too
Danny
nice.
said Saturday, Si. Isn't that what Danny said in the post-match interview? That we're a bit too nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
You
Did. It was...
you do not want to see a team that's kicking the living daylights out of anybody, but it is just having
Unless
the
you
players that are willing to take those. I hate again, don't have such thing as a professional foul because obviously it's not part of the game. That's why it's called a foul. But players that are willing to take those yellow cards, players that are willing to indulge in the dark arts, if you like. And I just think because maybe that's because it goes back to being a young team, the players haven't developed how they're going to do that, what they're going to do. But at times you're like, we play more like a Sunday school team than anything else. We're just too nice.
I think. I'll go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I think there's been a bit of learning going on. And these managers, I mean, I know they're in League Two, but they really know their stuff. And when I first started doing the job, I'd do an interview with Roy McDonough, and I'd ask him about the opposition. The opposition might be Oldham or Bury or Hartlepool or whoever. And I remember the opening words for every time I asked the one question about the opposition was, they're a big northern side. As if coming from the north,
Full
was like
stop.
really, as if that was the really significant thing. But nowadays, you've got your analysts, you've got your videos, you've got managers who are actually watching teams in the flesh. It's part and parcel of their job to travel crisscross all over the country. They are so well informed. And I don't know, I think, was it Gareth Ainsworth and Gillingham where you saw this deployed for the first time? And we alluded to this earlier, this tactical fouling of Colchester United players inside Colchester's half of the pitch. And we've seen that time and time again. I didn't think Bromley did a lot of that last Saturday. That's why I was surprised there was a reference to the referee. We saw a lot of it from Crawley, for example, didn't we, saying Scott Lindsay. And what they did is they had 6 different players all got booked. They're quite smart. But of course, the referee thinks just a niggledy foul outside of the Colchester penalty area when the U's have got the ball and looking to hit on the counter-attack. And it's really sad, isn't it, that when the one thing you don't want to say is that you've been worked out in that regard, and yet opposition managers and their coaching staff will do whatever they can to stop you playing and exploiting your strengths. And so it's not a shame that I'm almost saying here that, do you know, Danny and Nicky get accused of
all the time
dark arts?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
that's because everyone's jealous who got them. That's what it is.
Yeah.
What game are you watching? What game are you watching?
I think it's a reputation. I think
and they had to do it.
That Lincoln side built up Danny and Nicky's reputation tenfold in terms of their stature within the game. And I think the way they had to play with that squad also earned them the reputation of being a duo that indulged in the dark arts. And I think that's just stuck with them. I think regardless of how Colchester United play, and we play some really good football, people will look at Danny and Nicky and assume that we're a kick it, head it, foul base side, and it's completely unjustified given the work that Danny and Nicky put in particular. But looking ahead to Walsall, and just to sort of round it all off, we'll go ahead and we'll go for the score predictions. Sky. It's not on Sky. You're called Si.
I prefer Sky. Let's go with that for now, please.
Well,
Can you
Sky's
minute that?
Sky's commentary rather than me jabbering on, basically.
The combination of the two, yeah. But Si, how are you seeing the game going on Saturday?
So I'm gonna go for an absolute curveball and decide we're gonna score a goal.
Right, okay.
We're gonna win 1-0 and Jaden Williams is gonna score.
I think a lot of you fans would love to see that, and I think Neil mentioned that Jaden was a goal away from sort of taking all of the headlines and plaudits, so to speak. I also think he was a goal away from skyrocketing in confidence and potentially having a run in where he's hitting form and feeling good and picking up a few more goals. Dave, what's your score prediction for Saturday?
If we continue the performance from the last two games, really, and take the game to Walsall, law of averages state it has to happen. So I think we are going to take it to them. I think Walsall are brittle. They scraped their win against Newport last week with a 30-yard skimmer into the corner, which is a good strike, to be honest. But I think we're going to win. Absolutely, 100%. I think we're going to win 2-0. I'll say Williams as well, because I want him to score. And I want Arthur Reed just to get it out of his feet and smashing that one in the top corner.
Definitely, especially given the plaudits that he got a bit earlier in the season. Neil, what are you going for?
Well, I think this is going to be an interesting and tricky week for Danny and Nicky Cowley, in as much as we're all. I'm not on BBC Essex right now, so I'm out there. I'm a fan of Colchester United. So, but there is. You remember you said that we can put it right against Walsall, and I went, I don't know if you can put it right. Now, in other words, there's almost a feeling now in me that maybe the opportunity is gone. So Danny and Nicky's job, the coaching staff, and I'm sure they'll be very good at this, is to persuade the players, if they need any persuading, that Colchester are still very much in playoff contention. Because once they stop thinking that, then that the disappointment can set in, and I think that those sort of sides are often the sides that you want to play towards the end of the season. So I'm hoping, and I believe that they can get them out there next Saturday thinking this is a game where the winning starts, where the goal scoring starts, and we go and beat one of our rivals, and we call them one of our rivals. And if they can get that response out of them, they can win next Saturday. I don't think that I think Walsall are a better side now than since Matt Sadler's gone. I think Darren Byfield has got something like, was it 7 points out of the last 3 games, and they won very late on Saturday. Skimmer, I haven't seen it yet. But so if they can get them in the right frame of mind, and I have every reason to believe they can, Colchester United can score goals and win 2-0. But there is that worry that is beginning to dawn upon the players now that maybe they're not going to figure in the playoffs. And if that's the case, and then we don't score early and Walsall get in front, we might be in for a disappointment. That'd be a shame.
I think in regards to that, sorry, Darren, I think in regards to the mentality, I think once we got this weekend and then Easter, I think it could be after Easter, we could be 3 or 4 points off again if teams are beating everyone. But then I think that's after the Tranmere game, I think we're going to really, really know.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Danny has called us in those moments of dejection, which Danny, because he wears his emotions on
Mhm.
his sleeve. I can show you he's devastated when the result doesn't go the U's way. But Danny has called Coach United this season on occasions the nearly men.
Mhm.
He used it earlier in the season when they would just about reach the playoffs positions, and then they'd suffer the setback, whether it be Grimsby or whatever. And that's where they are now, really, isn't it? The nearly men.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And with the disappointment of last season still maybe looming over us a little bit, where we were the nearly men again, it's certainly a title or a description that Danny will want to shift going into the next season. But Dave, Neil, it's been great speaking to you, and thank you very much for your insights, and speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you
Cheers,
very much, guys. That was excellent.
Cheers.